Activity is not to be confused with achievement. If you're moving, but you're moving in the wrong direction, that is the antithesis of progress. We're back with another reflection on the daily Vedanta Club. That daily Vedanta Club. And today's reflection is something that I've been thinking about the last maybe week or two since I heard this. This was from, so every first Friday we have a group here in LA that meets in the backyard. You can DM on Instagram if you want to join and you're in the LA area. It's called the Venice Vedanta Club. And shout out to Mike, one of the members that named it that over a year ago. And we started meeting about a year and a half ago. It's such a great touch point on philosophical community discussion in person. It's a beautiful group that's forming and a lot of fun. And one of the things that was said that I learned so much from the discussion points of the group. One of the things that one of the members said, she's a Harvard Business School graduate. She was living in New York for several years. And she said that when she was attending this yoga class that she would go to each week, that at the end, the yoga teacher, when she would tell everybody, okay, now we're getting into Shavasana pose, which is, for most people, that's like it's the dessert. You just lay there in stillness after working your tail off. And it's a lot of people, mine included, it's a lot of people's favorite pose. But in the hustle and bustle of New York City, this yoga instructor would say, all right, everyone, for the hardest pose of all, you're going to recline on your back and we're going to get into Shavasana. And again, that's just laying down. But without fail, Nimi, who's telling the story, said that there was always 10 to 15 people that would gather their stuff when everybody was going to sit in that stillness, gather their stuff and leave because of the next thing they needed to get to. That New York minute, got to get somewhere, always on our way somewhere else. Never fully arriving where we are. And I loved that phrase, tongue in cheek, but quite profound, from the yoga instructor saying that this is the hardest pose of all, to be in that stillness. Within the Vedantic philosophy, it's that stillness is the result of practice. And uniquely, it is a practice in itself. What do I mean by that? Well, we all know the examples. You know these examples, right? Where trying to solve something creates more problems for you. Worry, concern. Are they going to get back to us? Is that going to happen? Oh no, is this person mad with me? And we create the discontent in a relationship or a job or a personal goal because we can't stop ourselves from acting. We can't stop ourselves from doing more things out of compulsion. As that old adage goes, activity is not to be confused with achievement. If you're moving, but you're moving in the wrong direction, that is the antithesis of progress. And if you're moving so much that you can't even realize that you're going in the wrong direction, it's fatal. That stillness, it is the hardest pose because it requires immense trust, faith in something higher than yourself, that you don't need to be constantly looking out for number one, that this, all of whatever this is already taking care of you. And it's 1 in 100,000 that already have that type of faith. But what's beautiful is you can incrementally invest in that direction by just seeing what happens practicing stillness in our daily lives. The most dynamic action available to you becomes even more powerful when it comes from stillness versus coming from concern or worry, agitation. What's a daily experiment where you can see, does this ring true? Is that how it works? Does powerful action, the most powerful action, come from stillness? Or does it come from more action? The test is start your day with stillness. Ideally, 30, 45, 60 minutes before the sun rises. But like I said, the incrementality of this, it's so powerful, it's so useful that you can test this out with 6 minutes of stillness. And just start with stillness of the body. Fix the mind on something you want to study, reflect, contemplate for 6 minutes, 7 minutes. Start your day with that before jumping into your phone, your inbox, your messages. And start that when the world is most conducive to stillness, when the world itself is still around you before the sun rises. And see what happens to your action during the day. This doesn't take weeks or even multiple days to see, oh wow, my most dynamic self comes from a day rooted in stillness. It is the hardest pose, but like anything hard, when you start to associate the benefits to it, instead of all of the cost, it's like people doing cold plunges for the first time, all they see are the costs. But the people that are obsessed with them, can't stop talking about them, 3 months in, all they think about are the benefits, how great they feel 15 minutes later, for the rest of the day, for the next 5 hours, how awesome they feel. Similarly, rooting your day in stillness, rooting your action, your decisions in stillness. Looking at a problem in your inbox and saying, maybe doing nothing right now, instead of a compulsive reaction, maybe doing nothing is the most beneficial thing I can do. You can expect it to also be potentially the hardest thing. But it's so often the case, isn't it, that you just choose not to do something about some issue, and then 2 weeks later it's solved itself. When our action comes from stillness, when our decisions come from stillness, when our study, reflection, foundation of our day comes from stillness, it is the most useful foundation for any of these to come from. It might be the hardest pose, but practicing stillness begets the results, the craving of more stillness. The higher order desire for, wow, it's like my best friend in the morning. That stillness to start the day. It's like my favorite golf club to go to when I have to metaphorically handle some issue at work or in life is, let me sit back, get some elbow room from the problem, and have a nice healthy dose of stillness before jumping in to try to fix whatever you think needs fixing. It might be the hardest pose, but so often the case that it is the most useful. That's today's reflection on the daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.